My parents abandoned me at Grandpa's house when I was 5, then vanished for 22 years, the morning he died. They came back not for me, not to grieve, but for his house. Mom brought boxes, Dad carried suitcases. My sister was upstairs choosing my bedroom before Grandpa's body had even left the house. Then Mom shoved a carton at my chest and said, "Pack your things." I didn't cry. I didn't argue. I reached into Grandpa's old Bible, pulled out the brass key he told me to find, and opened his locked study. That's when their faces changed because the envelope inside wasn't just a will. I was 5 the last time I saw my parents drive away. It was late October, cold enough that the front steps felt damp through my little sneakers. Mom told me I'd be staying with Grandpa Henry for a few weeks while she and Dad figured things out. She said it fast, like if she kept moving, the words wouldn't stick. I stood in the hallway with a pink backpack pressed to my chest. Dad carried in one grocery bag, set it on the kitchen counter, and never looked me in the eye. Then they left. I watched their taillights disappear past the maple trees and kept waiting for the car to turn around. It didn't. For 3 days. I refused to unpack. I slept with that backpack beside me because opening it felt like admitting they weren't coming back. Grandpa never lied to make me feel better. He didn't say, "They'll be here tomorrow." He pulled a wooden chair beside the window, sat next to me, and said, "You don't have to wait alone." That was Henry. He smelled like peppermint, sawdust, and the coffee he always forgot to finish. He made pancakes shaped like states he couldn't quite get right. He tied my hair so badly that one ponytail usually sat higher than the other. Every birthday. He bought a grocery store cake and scraped off the frosting roses because he knew I hated them. It wasn't a perfect childhood, but it was mine. Ashley stayed with our parents. She got beach trips, matching Christmas pajamas, and framed family photos where everyone wore the same fake smile. I got postcards signed. Love, Mom and Dad, like I was some distant cousin. For years, I told myself Ashley had the better life. Then I got older. I became an accountant because numbers made sense to me. They didn't disappear. They didn't make promises and rewrite them later. 2 years before Grandpa died, he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. I moved back into the house and worked from the kitchen table, balancing accounts during the day and helping him through the nights. Mom sent flowers once. Dad texted, "Keep us posted." Ashley sent a heart emoji. Grandpa never complained. Near the end, he started speaking carefully, like every word cost him something. One night, while I warmed soup he barely touched, he reached for my wrist. "Miranda," he said, "when I'm gone, don't let anybody make you feel like a guest in this house." I told him to stop talking like that. He just looked at me and added, "There's a key in my Bible. You'll know when to use it." 3 weeks later, he died with my hand in his. Before I could even call the funeral home, my phone lit up. Mom. Her first question wasn't whether I was okay. She wanted to know where Grandpa kept the deed, how much the house was worth, and whether I had found papers. Mom arrived before sunset. I heard the SUV crunch over the gravel while I was still standing in Grandpa's bedroom, staring at the dent his head had left in the pillow. The house still smelled like antiseptic, cold coffee, and the cedar lotion I had rubbed into his hands that morning. Then car doors slammed. Mom walked in first, carrying a leather folder against her chest. Dad followed with 2 suitcases. Ashley came behind them with an overnight bag and a garment bag, like they were checking into a hotel. Nobody hugged me. Mom glanced toward the staircase. "Where are the house papers?" I stared at her. "Grandpa died this morning." "I know," she said. "That's why we need to handle this before things get messy. Before things get messy." He had been gone less than 8 hours. Dad set the suitcases beside the front door and kept his eyes on the floor. Ashley looked around the living room, taking in the fireplace, the old hardwood, the built-in shelves Grandpa had made by hand. "This place is bigger than I remembered," she said. Mom opened her folder and pulled out an old copy of Grandpa's will. Years earlier, he had planned to leave most of the property to her and a few relatives. "This is pretty straightforward," she said. "I'm his daughter. We'll stay here until everything is settled." She had already scheduled someone to value the house the next morning. She had even called a locksmith. She said it casually. as if Grandpa's death had placed her in charge before anyone had read a single legal document. "We?" I asked. She gave me a look that made me feel 5 years old again. "Don't start." "Miranda." Ashley was already halfway upstairs. I found her in my bedroom with the curtains open. Late sunlight spilled across the quilt Grandpa had bought me when I started high school. She ran one hand along the window frame and smiled. "This room gets the best light," she said. "I'm taking it." My sister was already choosing her bedroom. I almost laughed because the whole thing felt too cruel to be real. Then I saw my suitcase in the hallway. Ashley had pulled it from the closet and placed it beside 2 empty boxes. Mom came up behind me. "You've had a good run here. A good run. You lived rent-free. Henry paid for everything. Taking care of him was the least you could do." I felt heat rise into my face. For 2 years. I had worked from the kitchen table, tracked every bill, changed his sheets, cleaned up after treatments, and slept with my door open so I could hear him call my name. Mom reduced all of it to free rent. Dad finally spoke. "We're still family. Let's not turn this into a fight." Mom nudged one of the boxes toward my feet. "Pack your things." The cardboard scraped across the floor. I looked at the box, then at my suitcase, then at the pencil marks Grandpa had made on the doorframe every birthday. Mom folded her arms. "This house was never yours." Something inside me went quiet. Not weak, not broken, quiet like a lock waiting for the right key. And suddenly, I remembered exactly where Grandpa told me to look. I walked into Grandpa's bedroom and shut the door behind me. For a second, I just stood there. His coffee mug was still on the nightstand. His slippers were tucked under the bed. The blanket I had pulled over him that morning was folded back, like he might come home and need it again. That was the moment I almost broke. Not when Mom asked for the deed. Not when Ashley took my room. Not even when they dragged my suitcase into the hallway. It was seeing Grandpa's glasses beside the lamp and realizing no one was going to pick them up again. I sat on the edge of the bed and pressed both hands over my mouth. The old version of me knew exactly what to do. Stay quiet. Make things easy. Leave before someone has to tell you twice. That little girl had survived by never taking up too much space. But if I walked out now, Mom would tell everyone I had agreed. She would say Grandpa wanted the family to have the house. She would rewrite the whole story. And this time, there would be no one left to correct her. Then I saw his Bible in the bottom drawer. My hands were shaking when I opened it. A small brass key slipped from between the pages and landed in my palm. Under it was a folded note in Grandpa's handwriting. "Do not sign anything. Do not leave the house. Call Rachel. Open the study only when they are all there." I read it twice. Then I called Rachel. She already knew Grandpa was gone. Her voice stayed calm while mine kept catching. "Miranda." "Listen to me," she said. "Your mother cannot sell that house. Change the locks, or force you out. Don't argue with her. Don't hand her anything. I'm on my way." When I stepped back into the hallway, Mom and Ashley were discussing paint colors. I picked up my suitcase and carried it back into my room. Ashley blinked. "What are you doing staying?" Mom laughed once. Sharp, mean. "And what exactly gives you that right?" I looked at the brass key in my hand. "You're about to find out." Then I walked to Grandpa's study. Dad moved toward me. Mom stopped smiling. Ashley's eyes dropped to the key. But I'd followed Grandpa's final instruction. I slid the key into the lock. It turned easier than I expected. Then the door began to open. The study door opened with a dry wooden groan. The room smelled like cedar, dust, and the pipe tobacco Grandpa had quit years ago. Thin bars of evening light cut across his desk. His reading glasses sat beside a sealed envelope with my name written in shaky black ink. And they stopped smiling. Mom pushed past Dad. "Give me that." I picked up the envelope before she could reach it. "No." Her face tightened. "Miranda, this is my father's property. It was. I broke the seal." Inside was a copy of a new will, a handwritten letter, a summary of Grandpa's assets, and records of the payments and bills I had handled during his illness. The total value of the house, land, and savings was close to $800,000. Ashley stared at the number. Mom stared at my name. The new will left everything to me. This is garbage, Mom snapped. He was sick. He didn't know what he was signing. I looked at her. Rachel has the original. That silenced her for half a second. Then the doorbell rang. Mom's head turned fast. Rachel stepped inside, carrying a slim case. She greeted me first, then looked at the three people behind me. I understand there are questions about Henry's estate, she said. Mom marched toward her. My daughter manipulated a dying man. Rachel did not blink. Henry met with me alone, more than once. He had cancer. Yes. He also understood his property, his family, and exactly what he wanted. Rachel placed the original will on the desk. She explained that Grandpa had signed it 4 months earlier. His doctor had confirmed he was mentally capable. 2 witnesses had been present. He had named Mom, Dad, and Ashley individually, so no one could claim they had been forgotten. The house was mine. The land was mine. The savings were mine. And until the estate was settled, I was responsible for protecting all of it. Dad finally looked up. So that's it. She gets everything. Rachel's voice stayed even. That was Henry's decision. Mom turned on me. After everything I did for you, I almost laughed. You left me here. We were struggling. For 22 years, her mouth opened, but nothing came out. I unfolded Grandpa's letter. My voice shook on the first line, then steadied. He wrote that he had watched me wait by the window. He had watched Mom call only when guilt got too loud. He had watched me grow up without letting their choices make me cruel. Then I reached the sentence that broke something open inside me. I did not keep you because I pitied you. I kept you because I loved you. You were never the child no one wanted. You were the best thing that ever entered this house. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Mom pointed at Ashley. She was 3. None of this was her fault. You can't punish her for what we did. I looked at my sister. You're right. She was 3. Ashley's eyes flickered with hope. But she was 25 when she dragged my suitcase into the hallway today. The hope disappeared. I pointed toward the door. You came here before Grandpa was buried. You picked rooms. You scheduled a locksmith. You told me to pack. Mom's voice dropped. You would really throw out your own family. You have a home to go back to. She flinched. I was 5 when you left me here without knowing if I had one. Silence filled the room. Then I said the only words that mattered. Take your bags and leave. Mom looked at Rachel, waiting for someone to overrule me. No one did. And that was when she finally understood that Grandpa's last gift was not the house. It was the end of her control. Mom stood in the doorway with one hand wrapped around her purse strap. We were young, she said. The anger was gone, replaced by something smaller. We didn't know what we were doing. I thought about every birthday she missed, every Christmas card signed like a business note. Every year she could have driven back and knocked on that front door. Maybe you didn't know what to do that first day, I said, but you had 22 years to come back. She looked down. For once, Mom had no answer. Ashley picked up her bag first. She did not slam the door or call me selfish. She just walked past me with her eyes fixed on the floor. Dad followed, dragging the suitcases he had carried in less than an hour earlier. He paused beside me. I thought he might apologize. Instead, he said, "This didn't have to happen." I met his eyes. You're right. He understood what I meant. Then he left. Mom was the last one out. She stood on the porch, staring through the open doorway like she expected me to change my mind. I did not. When the door closed, the house went silent. Not peaceful. Not yet. Just empty. I went back to Grandpa's study and sat in his chair. The leather creaked under me. His glasses were still beside the lamp, one arm folded, the other open. That tiny detail broke me. I cried until my chest hurt. Rachel stayed in the kitchen and gave me time. Later, she explained what would happen next in plain English. Mom could challenge the will, but Grandpa had prepared for that. There were medical records, private meetings, witnesses, payments, and bills showing who had cared for him. Mom threatened to fight for 3 weeks. She sent messages through Rachel, accusing me of turning Grandpa against her. Then her lawyer reviewed the records. The threats stopped. She withdrew the challenge. The house became legally mine. No one was arrested, no careers were destroyed. I never posted our family business online or tried to humiliate them publicly. They simply lost what they believed they were entitled to. That was enough, after everything was settled. I changed the locks. The locksmith handed me 2 new keys. I stood on the porch, turning one over in my palm, thinking about the little girl who once had no say in which doors closed behind her. Now, I decided who entered. I repaired the leaking roof and replaced the old furnace. But I left Grandpa's study almost untouched. His desk stayed by the window. His glasses stayed beside the lamp. I kept the house. I also used part of the savings to help people who had stepped away from work to care for sick relatives. Nothing flashy, just groceries, utility bills, and breathing room when someone needed it most. A few months later, a letter arrived from Ashley. She did not ask for money. She said she had believed Mom's version of our childhood because it was easier than questioning it. She admitted what she did in my room was cruel. Then she asked if I would tell her what really happened when I was 5. I placed the letter on Grandpa's desk. I did not answer right away. Forgiveness and access are not the same thing. Someone can be sorry, and you can still need distance. Someone can share your blood and still have to earn a place in your life. That evening, I sat on the back porch with Grandpa's old mug between my hands. The maple leaves whispered above me. The house was quiet again, but for the first time. Quiet did not feel like being abandoned. It felt like being safe. Grandpa didn't leave me revenge. He left me proof that love shows up, stays, and protects. What my parents called cruelty was really a boundary they never expected me to set. Sometimes the hardest people to stand up to are the ones who taught you to doubt yourself. But protecting your peace does not make you heartless. It means you finally believe your life matters too. Have you ever had to protect yourself from your own family? Share your story in the comments. If this story hit home, share it and subscribe so you do not miss the next one.